Welcome to the Boomers, Bucks and Bling podcast, where we turn retirement planning into a bit of a thrill ride. I'm your host, Carl and each week we'll dive into everything from reverse mortgages and staying put in style to Medicare, Social Security, and home safety. But wait, there's more. We're not just going to talk all about money and business. We're going to add some sparkle, some bling, as we chat with travel pros, party planners, and a lot of different topics that's going to help you make the most of your golden years. So grab a cup of tea or whatever it is you want to drink, get comfy, and let's make retirement planning an adventure of a lifetime.
Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Boomers, Bucks and Bling. I have Fritzy back with us. She's been gracious enough to allow us to pick her brain a little bit more here. And those of you who listened to the show before, you know Fritzy, you know she's a wealth of information. So we're going to get right to it. Fritzy, welcome. Thank you for coming back on.
Thank you, Carl. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Good. So I've been thinking a little bit about our conversations that we've had, and I was thinking about the conversation. So how do you start the conversation with your kids, or if you're part of the sandwich generation, how do you approach your aging parents about aging? Give us a little bit of your insight on that, because I think it's a very interesting topic. How do you bring it up?
Okay. Well, that's if you don't mind, I'm going to backtrack and then I will get to your question, Carl.
No problem. Your show.
I know it. I know as an interviewer, you really want us to stay on track. But it's for 10 years in New York, I had a senior move management business in the middle of my other work. And during that time, we moved 1,000 families or people. We had 1,000 clients in 10 years.
Wow.
Moving them from their homes into assisted living or in with family or to a retirement communities, lots of different locations. So we were based on Long Island, and that was what we were up to. And at the time, I realized how few people. Now, you've got to remember, I started that in 2001. So it was that 10 years from 2001 to 2011. And at the time, that kind of a service really wasn't an industry the way it is now. I mean, it's evolved into a huge industry all across the country, helping people think about actually downsizing and packing and moving and setting up the new apartment or setting up the home to look like as close as the one they left. And it was during that time that I realized people really would have preferred to stay home in many cases if they had made the changes, or if the family had agreed to help them make the changes that they needed to stay in their homes. And that led to my book, Grace and Grit, about some of the real life challenges of aging. And in that book, I used it's 10 small chapters, but it's the conversations in that book are designed to help the families look at different kinds of situations and the generational approaches to that. And so that really is how we begin our conversation today, is to kind of understand where it is that I first came to witnessing both grace on the part of families who the older adults or seniors were moving, and exhibited by the adult children in many cases as well.
Wow.
Or the grit that it took to get through all of the trauma and drama of that kind of a transition for us, because downsizing is not an easy process ever. I don't care if you're 20 or if you're 50 or if you're 70, it's not easy.
So tell us about some of the trauma.
So a lot of this, and I'm also going to incorporate the real answer to your question, is when we want to have these conversations and begin to talk with our parents, or in some cases, our grandparents, about what the choices are that are going to have to happen. And for those of us who are the older generation, right, if we don't want to move, the implications are not simply because I don't want to leave my house because I've been here a long time. It's not simply my doctor's here in town, or the person who cuts my hair is here. I don't want to have to like learn all new people. I don't want to have to move. It's really much deeper than that, because we have created in our homes that sense of security that we don't have in the outside world, right? It goes back really anthropologically, even to cavemen, right? If you were a cave person and you stepped outside your cave, was it the saber-toothed tiger or a mammoth, or was the weather, or all of those things? Every time you stepped out, there was danger. And that core of who we are as humans is still part of us.
Huh.
So the bond that we have, it's not necessarily just to the physical space, although that's how it manifests, but it's really to that whole idea of home. And if we understand that that's where we're coming from, that it goes so deep in each of us, that the conversations about moving, and when we start to look at like the details, like where are we going and the size of the house and how many bedrooms do we need, that's really a bit superficial compared to what it is, and acknowledging for ourselves that this move, that this change, that we will in a new location be able to feel the same security that we feel here.
So being that might be moving close to a loved one, to somebody who's going to help you, like if you have children, and maybe moving into the same town is maybe okay, but moving in the same neighborhood might put you over the hump of that newness, that familiarity thing that you're giving up, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Right. And no matter where it is that we move, we need to understand that by making the agreement with ourselves to make the change and to make the move, that we will achieve that same sense of safe and place when we arrive. That we can develop that because we're going to take that piece with us. So, and it's a part of the conversation that really never comes to the surface because it's inside all of us. So a lot of the other decisions, like, are we moving closer to family? Are we moving closer to friends? Are we moving closer to an environment in which we would like to live? Are we finding another home that's the correct style for us? All of those pieces get added on, but we first have to come to the recognition that we can achieve that sense of safety in another place. Once we do that, then we can have the balance of the conversations around what that might look like. So if you are the grown child and you have a mom or dad or grandma who is going to have to be making those decisions, it's very important to recognize really that depth of what's going on with the person who is going to have to make the decision to move.
A lot of times, me being a mortgage guy for 30 years, right? A lot of times these conversations aren't had, and they're waiting and then somebody's in crisis, and then these choices are being made. And to me, it's just a horrible timing, because you're dealing with this whole crisis situation, and now you got to make life-changing choices at the same time, and that's just unbearable. I mean, to have that put that much pressure on yourself.
Right. And it puts pressure on both generations, if not 3 generations now, the way we're going, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
And that's why, really, as a senior move manager, oftentimes I was a mediator between the family members. And one of my chapters is, she's just like my husband. She's just like her father, but I could divorce him. And it was a mom who happened to have some dementia challenges, and a grown daughter trying to do the very best she could to help her mom make those downsizing decisions. And her mother was fighting her the whole time, but it came out of her mouth. She's just like her father. That's why I divorced him. And actually, when I shared that privately with the daughter, because everything that she did, every word that the mother yelled, or all of the unpleasantness, right? The girl took to heart. The woman took to heart. And so we just talked through what that emotional piece was, and to help her step back and not take it personally.
Yeah.
And so really it's important that, because so many times, like, you need to move, mom, right? You can't take care of dad. You really shouldn't be living alone. Uh, you could come live near us. And all of it is oftentimes well intended, right? It's really for someone else's benefit for a lot of reasons: socialization, managing the property, health, all of those things, right? But to be able, as the generation who's trying to be helpful, to understand where it is. Does the person, what is it about that particular personality, right? Many of us were blessed with dads who were veterans of world wars, right?
Right.
And that experience, and the cultural, like, the staunchness and the strength and resiliency that had to happen as a result of that, right, really makes them sometimes very difficult to reason with.
Yeah, definitely.
And so another way to have the conversation is to switch it, and not make it necessarily all about the person who appears to be obstinate here, but to make it about yourself. Because sometimes when we make things about ourselves, then that will shift a parental feeling or a grandparent's feeling toward the experience.
So instead of, mom, dad, I think you need to move because you can't take care of yourself, mom and dad, I'd like for you to move because I'd love to spend more time with you. Right? That's
right. Basically, right. It's like my mother didn't want to wear one of those first alert buttons or the bracelet or anything. And I live 3,000 miles away. And I said, all right, don't do it for you. I don't worry whether the EMS comes to get you or not. But for me, my peace of mind, please.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll pay for it. Okay. So that lasted like 2 payments. And she goes, all right, if I have to wear this thing, I'm paying for it. And I was like, okay, you pay for it.
None of us I guess none of us want to feel like we're a burden ever, right, in life. And that,
right,
as you get older, I think you start to feel more and more that you're a burden.
Right, right. But, so she got the button, and it was very important. At one point, she pressed it and needed to have someone come to get her for medical attention. So that part worked out. And it's funny that you mentioned being a burden, because for years I've told my son I'm going to live to be at least 97. And so just get ready now. Prepare yourself psychologically, because your mom is going to be hanging around having these mom moments. You know, did you drive safely? Did you get to the place you were going? You know, I know you're almost 40 years old, but I have, and and when I text him, I go, having a mom moment. And then I send the message just so he knows which part of me it's coming from. But I've already warned him I'm going to 97.
There you
And
go.
but that whole point is, have we thought about that and started to have those conversations? Because if we know we're going to 97, if we're accepting responsibility for our health that helps us get there, right? For trying to manage our savings to try to get there. You know, are we doing all of those other things to get there and make that as smooth a transition as possible too?
Yeah. A lot of times when we do reverse mortgage consultations, we'll try to bring the children in, right, or the whoever, somebody else, just to make sure that we're trying to create an expectation and a confidence level, right, that they're making the right decision. And we'll bring children in who know absolutely nothing about their parents' financial situation, and it's like, I get it. As a parent, you don't really want your kids to be burdened by it, or to be, we don't have to worry about anything. Life's taken care of when we're gone. But yet at the same time, the kids need to know a little bit about what's going on within the parents' lives, because they're your parents. You most of the time you're going to want to take care of them and make sure that things are good for them. And so I think it's really important to start having those conversations early. Because again, when you're in crisis mode is not the time to be having these conversations.
No, and they go downhill fast.
Yeah.
And we're always children to our parents.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No matter what age we are, we're probably all still 12. And so, would you share your financial picture with a 12-year-old? Well, no. But so it's that, you're still my child, and you're not my adult.
So as a member of the sandwich generation, right, and that's who I refer to, somebody that's younger than the parent, right, or the grandparent. How would you approach the boomer in that conversation? How would you say, hey, I want to know everything about your finances. Let's sit down and talk about it. Right? Because that's not going to work.
No, it isn't. And so one way to do it is, we've recently done some financial planning on our part, or we're looking at what this kind of change might mean for us and our family now. And how does, in you're looking at yours, right? We're looking at our financial plan for the next 10 years. It's either been fun or it's been arduous, but sharing that you've taken some action, and then you can say, have you done the same thing or considered the same thing? And as part of that, we kind of did a look ahead, and there's going to be specific times where questions like, am I going to be moving, or are there things to do with the house, or getting additional services to the house? Again, from my daughter-in-law, her dad, who has this brain tumor challenge right now, wanted to still keep cleaning the gutters. So sense of balance wasn't exactly there, and the kids chipped in, and they just sent the gutter cleaning service, and he yelled, and the gutter cleaning service cleaned the gutters, and then he said thank you, right? So we don't want to overstep, but sometimes if we start with proactive things that we've taken care of, or we're starting to look at, and then what that might look like as well.
Yeah. coming over and saying, hey, I'm going to come over because you can't do the yard work anymore. I'm going to come over and do it for you. You go over for a visit and you just happen to be doing yard work, right? Things like that. So you got to look at the emotion as well as the physical, as well as the financial, and it's kind of reverse aging. I mean, you kind of they took care of you when you were in diapers, and you're going to take care of them when they're in diapers, I guess, huh?
Yeah,
kind of the mindset, right?
Yeah, it is, but we're not really going all that way, Carl.
Yeah,
we're gonna stay on the healthy lifespan style here.
Yeah,
if we
yeah.
can. But you're right. I mean, there needs to be a recognition, and as individuals, as human beings, we are absolutely terrible predictors of our future.
Yeah.
We all think we're going to be fine. And even though, there's this huge family history of high blood pressure, like I'm not going to get high blood pressure.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, I have two surviving brothers. Both of them have high blood pressure, right? Luckily, we had different dads, so I don't have high blood pressure. But the point is, we don't think of ourselves in any other way than we are right now.
Yeah.
And that leads us to not planning, and it leads us to not having those conversations.
All right. So you wrote a book.
And sometimes yes.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that sometimes, I mean, we're talking about how adult children can initiate the conversation with their parents, but the reverse is also true. I mean, this is a chance for those of us who are parents, the same way I told my son I'm going to 97, right?
Right.
To begin to have those conversations, whether they are prepared to hear them or not. Because that's really where we're moving, Carl, is we're moving to finally being that proactive generation that's going to, make the changes to our homes, kind of do some of that financial planning. You perfect description of people are going to be retired for 30 years.
Right.
Right. Now, at the rate I'm working, I'm not going to be retired for 30 years.
You may.
Right.
You could go to 107, right?
Oh no, that wouldn't be fair to anybody. But the idea here is that the more we pay attention, and you're encouraging your listeners to do that, to take a look at all of this variety of things going on in their lives, and just take a few minutes and say, okay, you know what, let's devote 2 hours on Saturday to just putting down on a piece of paper what it is we think we need to do.
Yeah.
And in meetings with other professionals who are working in this space, I ask people to raise their hands. We're professionals, right?
Yeah.
Who has a will? Who has, and they're all important. Documents are important. House decisions are important. Health decisions are important. We got to have some fun at some point. That's important.
That's very important. Yeah. Yeah. So many times do I talk to people who don't want to spend the inheritance. It's like, in my opinion, you've worked 30, 40, 50 years to kind of accumulate what you have. And if there's things on that bucket list that you just got to do, I mean, you got to be responsible, obviously, but go do them. It's not like, well, I'll put it off till next year because I'm going to be a year younger, be more energetic, have more. Go do it. Do it now while you can, because you don't know what the future is going to bring, right? And again, you got to be responsible. But I think people that have accumulated a net worth, live in a home, raised a family, whatever they've done, have shown responsibility. They just haven't had enough planning done in their lives, and now it's kind of the time to the baby boomers are kind of have a reputation for have not done enough planning, right? And maybe this is the time to just plan out the rest of it. So at least what you leave is not just this big mumbo jumbo kind of mess. Well, I got a house here and I got a bank account there and I got an investment account and blah, 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 and all this stuff is everywhere. Maybe get it organized, get it in one place so someone can actually find it. right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff. And it doesn't take long if you just really bring your loved ones in and kind of do it together. It comes together pretty quick, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it can. It can. And the more we do, the it's also off our checklist. Because we know there's a number of things like doing our documents, or just putting everything in one metal box, all of that stuff. And it niggles back here. It just like sits back there going, man, I got to get the groceries. I think, holidays are coming. I got to do this. I got to do that. But it's still back there. It's still back
Mm-hmm.
there. And we'll witness a crisis. We'll witness somebody else having a health crisis, somebody else having the fall and the hip surgery, somebody else. And then it moves a little closer to the action department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Fritzy, I don't want to take too much of your day here. I so appreciate you coming back on the show. If people want to get this book, sounds pretty amazing. If they wanted to get a copy of the book, how do they get one?
Well, you can order it through my website. So it used to be on Amazon, but Amazon has too many books to inventory mine as well at this point. So
Okay.
pretty much through householdguardians.com.
Okay.
The book's there, and the book is also on the Age Safe America website as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you to our audience for joining us for another episode of Boomers, Bucks, and Bling. We're gonna get some bling on here because we, kind of sometimes we get a little too financial leaning, but we're gonna get some bling on here as well. And I just thank you very much for your joining our podcast, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Boomers, Bucks, and Bling. We hope we've managed to mix a little enlightenment along with fun. If you enjoyed our conversation, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss out. And if you got a moment, drop us a review. It helps spread the word and keeps us motivated to continue. Got burning questions? Hot topics you want us to dive into? Let us know on our website or social media. Until next time, Carl Spiteri here to remind you to tackle retirement with a big smile and a whole lot of energy.